Algebra 2, this video lesson picks up with more of chapter 6.7 and focuses on a particular skill, which I call working backwards, where you're starting with a zero and a set of zeros, and from the zeros you're making the polynomial. You're figuring out what the polynomial is, instead of finding the zeros from the polynomial. Let's look at this example here. I'm given the zeros 0 and 6. Or in other words, the x-intercepts, 0 and 6. Well, if I'm going to make a polynomial equation out of that, I could say y equals, or f of x equals, and I'm going to have two zeros, right? X and something in one set of parens, and x and something else in another set of parens. And I simply plug in minus 0 for that and minus 6. Remember, when it's paired together in a binomial with x, those zeros change their signs, so don't forget that. So now all I have to do is multiply them. Well, let's make this a little simpler. We would never really call it x minus 0, we would just call it x. So I've got x times x minus 6. As I say, now all I have to do is multiply that out. X times x is x squared, and x times negative 6 is negative 6x. That one's done. It's not always that easy, though. Let's look at another example. Let's say that these are the zeros, negative 2 and the square root of 3. Well, like I said before, I'm going to have these two sets of factors here. But wait, square root of 3. This should be a tip-off to you. Anytime you see a square root as a 0, you should realize they come in pairs because they came from doing the quadratic formula, which gives you plus or minus. Now, I don't mean to be harsh here by not giving you this tip-off of this additional 0, but sometimes the textbook and other sources won't. You need to remember there's actually going to be a third factor here, and so you're going to have positive 2, changing that sign, and you're going to have plus and minus the square root of 3. You're going to have both versions of the square root. Okay, now when you come to multiply these out, realize that these two on the right are easy to multiply together if you start there. So start by multiplying these two. And the firsts are x squared, of course. Oops. So x plus 2 is going to stay there. That's what I meant to say here. Let's go back. I meant to say I'm going to hang on to x plus 2 for now. And now I'm going to multiply the x times the x. And I'm going to get x squared. On the right, square root of 3 times the square root of negative 3. That's negative 3. Make sure you understand that. That's very important that you have that down pat. Now the outer and inner. Well, the nice thing about these is they're going to cancel each other out. I'm going to have a positive x times square root of 3 and a negative x times the square root of 3. Since those cancel out, they go away. And on the right, what I have now is that x squared minus that 3. So now I've got two binomials here that I got to multiply out. X plus 2 times x squared minus 3. I'm going to use the FOIL method, but because one of these is an x and the other is an x squared, I got to be a little more careful than usual multiplying them out. X times x squared is x cubed. Outers, x times negative 3 is negative 3x. I moved it over here because 2 times x squared is 2x squared, and I'm just writing it in standard form. I'm putting the x squared term before the x term. Last, 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. Now I'm done. That's it. Do hit the pause button if you didn't follow that, and make sure you understand each of the steps that's on the screen now. You can always go back and watch this video again if you need to. Another situation. Here are two zeros. So again, I'm going to have these as the frames of my factors, but once again I'm actually going to have a third factor, because like before, 3i, the imaginary number there, isn't going to come by itself. It's going to come in a pair with negative 3i. So there, I fill those in. Those are now my factors. And now I'm going to multiply them. Once again, when I multiply them, I'm going to be best off if I multiply these two on the right that are so similar to each other first. So I'm going to keep the x plus 1 once again, and I'm going to multiply the stuff on the right. Well, x times x is x squared, of course. 3i times negative 3i, don't forget, that's negative 9i squared. The inner and outer are going to cancel each other once again. And so without those, I now on the right have x squared minus 9i squared. and I kept that x plus 1 on the left. Foil them again, and, oh wait, I'm sorry, I forgot. Minus 9i squared is simplified as plus 9. Don't forget that also. That's really going to be important that you realize that. So now x times x squared. Well, that's going to be x cubed. 1 times x squared is x squared. X times 9 is 9x. And the last thing here, 1 times 9 is 9. That's done. Okay, here's one for you to try. Go ahead and hit the pause button. When you come back, I'm going to show you the completely worked out solution. Okay, I'm going to assume that you've paused, completed the work, and are ready to see the solution, and here it is. The final answer you should have gotten was x cubed plus 36x. Hit the pause button and look through all these steps if you didn't get that, and don't hesitate to come into class with questions about it if you have any. Here's another pair of zeros. Go ahead from that and figure out what the polynomial equation is for that. Hit the pause button, and when you come back, I'm going to show you the completed answer. Okay, again, I'm going to assume that you did that. There's all the work for 7b. And if you didn't get x cubed plus x squared minus 5x minus 5, then hit the pause button, look through the answer that I have here, and come into class with any questions that you have. That's it for this lesson.